this video?
Everyone on my Facebook. So, well, I am so glad you are here, Jolynn. Thank you so much for taking the time to let me ask you a few questions. Uh, I'm gonna,
Some good
yeah,
questions.
okay. Yeah, a few questions. So thank you, Jolynn, for coming on. First, I just want you to kind of introduce yourself, tell us about your school, what you teach, and your Beachbody stuff. Just kind of introduce yourself a little bit.
Okay. My name is Jolynn. I am a mom of four. I'm also a home ec teacher. And I'm also a online accountability fitness coach with Beachbody.
Yay! So I have known Jolynn for, 11 years now? 10 years? We've known each other for a long time. We've been through lots of babies, and we're just really great friends. And so I have seen Jolynn go through her birth journey and watched her just do amazing stuff over the years. So I just want Jolynn to come on, and we're going to talk about her experience with breastfeeding after a cesarean.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a list of questions I'm going to ask, and to kind of try to stay on track, I have them written down here. So Jolynn, I just want you to kind of tell us your story about your first cesarean, just how that happened and why, and just kind of share with us what caused it.
Okay, so my oldest daughter is 12 years old. And when I got pregnant with her, I was like 24. And the internet was not like, we didn't have our cell phones on us all the time, Googling things. And I mean, I wasn't just like super educated. I just kind of like did whatever my doctor told me, like all the, through my whole pregnancy. And I had an extremely healthy pregnancy. Baby was fine, perfect. Everything was going okay. And the last 3 weeks before my due date, I had really high blood pressure. And my job, I was a clinical laboratory scientist, and I had a very, very stressful job. And so my doctor put me on bed rest for the last 3 weeks because my blood pressure was so high. And when I got close to my due date, he decided to induce me about 3 days before. And I was like, okay, I just kind of did whatever he said. But I wasn't ready. My baby had not dropped. She wasn't in the like anywhere near the birth canal. Like she was like up in my ribs up here. I wasn't dilated or anything like that. So when they induced me, I was in labor for like 24 hours, and her heart rate like just dropped like really really low. And 1 minute I'm just like chilling and labor. I had Pitocin, I had my epidural and everything, but I had only dilated like half a centimeter. And so they just were like, we got to go now. We got to get this baby out. They really didn't even give me much of a choice. It was just like wheeling me down and having a C-section. I mean, I kind of really didn't have an option. And that's how I had my first C-section was an emergency C-section. So that's how that went.
So when you had the emergency cesarean, pretty much for your next delivery, did you want to try to deliver vaginally, or did you schedule your cesarean? How did that work out with
I
your
actually
next one?
had talked to my doctor, and she had agreed to let me have a VBAC. So, but she told me if I did not have any signs of like going into labor when I got to my due date, then we needed to do a C-section. Well, I got to my due date like she was due like June the 16th or something around there. And I, like the week before, like she said, I literally had no signs, no contractions, hadn't dilated or anything. So they went in and scheduled a C-section for that last week. And so I was really bummed because I really didn't want to have another one.
Yeah. Well, I know you had intended to breastfeed before you had your cesarean, correct?
Yeah, I had intended on breastfeeding before. I just wanted to, I really didn't, it wasn't like one of those things where I just really just was dead set on doing, but I wanted to try. I just wanted to, make try and see if it worked. Like not if it worked, but if it was right for me. I wanted to try
Yeah.
first before I fed formula. Yeah.
Okay. So I just want you to kind of share what challenges you had attempting to breastfeed after a cesarean and just
Well,
kind of let us know what that was like.
here's the thing. With my oldest daughter, I had an emergency C-section, and it was an hour before they even brought her to me. Um, and I was kind of like in shock a little bit, not necessarily like full blown shock, but like my whole body was like shaking really, really bad. So they had to like put all these blankets and stuff, and they had to like get my temperature had like bottomed out. It was like 95 degrees. I was freezing. So they had to like warm me up and stuff. And so by the time she came to me, I was like, it was like an hour or so later, and I was paralyzed from the waist down, so you can't move. And my husband had to like the nurse had to like help me position her because I couldn't move. And
Yeah.
that first time it was really kind of almost depressing to me because I was like, "Where's my baby? All I wanted to do was see my baby." And my husband, they let him take her to the nursery, and he got to hold her first, and that was with all my kids. I mean, I didn't get to hold any of them at all until they had their baths and all that stuff. um, but it was the second day that was just like super hard because I was in so much pain. Like, I mean, once I was able to get up and like I had to have help to go to the bathroom. I could
Yeah.
I was really frustrated because I could not position the baby at all. And she wouldn't like anytime I tried to get her to take the breast, she wouldn't do it. But my husband would place her a certain way and then she would feed. So like having him to help me was amazing. He didn't even know what he was doing, but he would just
Yeah.
like it was easier for him to move her around because it's like you can't any way you move, you're going to be in pain.
Yeah.
But
So I guess, did your nurses or your care provider assist you during that process after your emergency cesarean the first time? Were they helpful, or did you have to figure this stuff out on your own?
I had to figure a lot of it out on my own. And now I will say that, like, my last baby, I had like somebody. I don't remember if no my third baby. I'm sorry, my third and fourth baby. I like had somebody that like came in like a lactation consultant came in, but I didn't have a whole lot of help, but I will tell you, my oldest daughter was in the NICU for almost 2 months. And the one person that seriously helped me with breastfeeding, there was this one nurse, and her name was Gloria. I remember her name. And she helped me more than anyone. I don't know if it wasn't for her, I would have no clue what I was doing, honestly.
Aw.
In fact, she was an advocate because my daughter was in the NICU. The doctors, because she had a brain injury, would not allow me to hold her. So I had to pump for the first 2 weeks of her being in the NICU. So I wasn't even allowed to breastfeed her. I couldn't touch her, couldn't anything. And this nurse told the neurosurgeon that this baby needed to be held. She needed to be breastfed. She let me in every 3 hours all through the night to feed her, like, and she would sit with me and help me. Like, I'm telling you, I don't even know if I would have been as successful because I stayed home with her for a year and I breastfed her for a year afterwards. I really don't think I would have been as successful if she hadn't helped me to do that because it was really frustrating.
Yeah, well,
Especially
it's hard.
being in the hospital.
Yeah. Well, were you able to connect with any moms that had been in your similar situation that were able to assist you during that time?
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I really had no one. And
Yeah.
after after she got a little bit older, I actually joined a group for a while, Families Helping Families, and I went in and talked to moms in the NICU to kind of help them in the same situation because I felt like I was so helpless. But
Yeah.
I did not, at the time, I really didn't have any friends that were breastfeeding. And, so
Yeah.
I really didn't have a support support group, and I wasn't breastfed, so my mom, like, she didn't breastfeed me, so I not that she wasn't any help, but I mean, like, she didn't know
Yeah.
anything about it.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. I guess after you got home, about how long did it take? And this would not apply to the first birth, but for the rest. How long did it take for you to get comfortable and not be in pain after you had a cesarean? You
Um,
know, for you to breastfeed comfortably.
the first probably like 3 to 4 days is the absolute worst. Um, I mean, when you have a C-section, I mean, you're in pain for a couple of weeks. I mean, you still feel the pain, but after the first 3 or 4 days, you're moving around better and it's easier to pick up the
Yeah.
baby. But for those first 3 or 4 days, like I had to have somebody with me to like help me. Just because anytime you kind of like adjusted yourself or moved, it would just hurt all over. And so I think I stayed in bed for the first good day after coming home from the hospital.
Yeah.
And whatnot, my child's talking to me, so she's distracted me. Sorry.
Hey, Isabella.
Yeah, I kicked her out. So. But
So I
it
guess
definitely helps to have somebody with you.
so for sure you recommend if someone's going to have a cesarean, if scheduled one or if they end up having an emergency one, to plan for someone to be there with them for
Definitely.
the at least 4 days to assist with the breastfeeding.
Yes. It's just
Okay.
it's hard to like pick, the baby up and move around. Um,
Yeah.
I actually had the bassinet beside my bed, and that way it would just, if my husband wasn't there, because he had to go back to work like the week after, but having him here, like he took off work, for the first week, that was so helpful. And then my mom came to help afterwards. But like you can't drive for 2 whole weeks when you have a C-section.
Yeah.
And it's just good to have help, especially you don't want, you can't pick anything up that's heavier than the baby. But pain
Yeah.
wise, the pain, it's not comfortable. And then whenever I would feed, I found that like I would have the boppy pillow, and the best way for me was for the baby to be like kind of like football, with her legs. I say her because I've had three girls, but I also have a boy too. So like jump this way, kind of like with the feet this way. That was just the most comfortable position for me, or either laying on my side. Um,
Okay.
and so that way you're not having to like, moving back and forth too much.
So when you're saying the best position to feed the baby, are you saying like the football hold where the baby
Yeah,
will? Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Using a pillow or a boppy is
yes,
what you're recommending?
yes,
Okay.
definitely.
To kind of lift the baby up.
I would
Okay.
just,
That's
yeah,
great.
the I had I used the mess out of that boppy pillow.
Yeah.
That was definitely a must.
That helped when you were
Yes,
in that pain.
yes.
Okay. Well, is there anything you would tell moms not to do that you did do? Something that you learned the hard way after having a cesarean and trying to breastfeed?
Not to do.
Like just
Well,
anything that,
as far as a cesarean goes, and not necessarily breastfeeding, but definitely do not pick anything up you're not supposed to pick up. And
yeah,
take it easy, because I actually, with my number three child, I was taking care of the other two, and I was doing too much, and I actually caused my incision to rupture, and I had to have it restitched back because I wouldn't ask for help. So definitely ask.
yeah,
As far as breastfeeding goes, like it can be really frustrating when you have a baby that won't latch. But I would definitely say don't do it by yourself. Like, don't just give up and say, like, throw your hands up in the air, like, I give up. Like, if you're really wanting to do it, because it is frustrating if you're by yourself trying to figure it out and your baby won't latch. And sometimes it's just like you need to move the baby in a different position, and it could be just a simple fix that you're just not thinking of unless you talk to someone, you know.
Yeah, that's what a lot. I feel like a lot of first time moms being comfortable to reach out. Um, that's our biggest challenge, I think. So that's why I'm kind of having you on so we can kind of share your story because
Yeah,
Louisiana has there's a lot of people who are having cesareans. We have a high percentage rate, so I feel like we definitely need to touch on how to breastfeed after you have a cesarean. So
yeah.
I think it's encouraging to know that you were successful and everything worked out for you.
And I feel
And
like if you nowadays, like now, doctors are more, our hospitals are more um, breastfeeding friendly,
breast, yes.
and will are allowing moms to hold the baby sooner, more so than what I was allowed to. Because with this one that's talking right now, he came to me sooner than my first baby did, but there's a lot of years difference in between the two of them, you know.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
asking for bananas.
Jolynn, I want you here. I'm going to stop it real fast.